Hey, Trailblazers, this is Jason, your host of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. Before we jump into our latest episode, I've got some incredible news for you. Are you gearing up for your next big hike or backpacking trip? Well, we at Trailblazing Texas podcast have partnered up with Trekker Joe's, the ultimate Texas outfitter, to bring you something I feel absolutely special. Listeners, you of the Trailblazing Texas podcast can now get a one-time 15% off their gear purchases at Trekker Joe's. That's right, whether you're a first-time customer at Trekker Joe's or a repeat customer like me, you can save big and hit the trails well prepared. So upon checkout, use code TTP15 to claim your 15% discount and in the process support an amazing local Texas business. So happy trails, and don't forget to tell your hiking buddies. Now on with the episode. Welcome to the Trailblazing Texas podcast, where we embark on a journey through our diverse Texas landscapes and breathtaking trails while always engaging with our amazing Texas hiking community. So settle in, tighten up those bootlaces, and get ready for the thrilling tales awaiting for you on this episode. Well, Todd, I would agree with that. But the time that I ran into Bigfoot on the Lone Star hiking trail, I don't think the speaker would have helped me.
He was bobbing his head.
But I know he wouldn't have cared about that speaker. He would have got me. Thank God that I was able to run so fast.
Well, that same little speaker is going to go with me when we go up to the trailway and do it again, because, like I say, to keep the hogs at bay. Yeah.
Yep. So it's funny that you bring up mountain lions. That's a bucket list of mine at the Guadalupe Mountains. And so Pam Bells, the Ranger Pam, she just will no longer be back there. So that was sad. I would always talk to her about mountain lion sightings, and because she would not always see them, but maybe 5 or 6 times out in the backcountry. And my friend Henning, he was in the military, and the job that he was tasked to do, he has some special scopes and stuff. So we're still planning on it, getting out there, and then just dusk and dawn, just setting up on a ridge out there and seeing if we can spot some. But yeah, that's it's probably a stupid idea, but it's something that I really, really, really want to experience. It was the brown tarantula was the first one, and I ran into one of those, and now it's the mountain lion, and that'll kind of complete my wildlife. But we think about that all the time. I look at it as something like maybe that it's I'm in an unreal situation, and I look at it like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like we ran into a black bear with a cub at Big Bend. I was so excited, and my son's panicking, and he's like, Dad, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know about you. I can outrun you. I don't know what you're gonna do. But she didn't give 2 shits about us. She looked up at hikers and kept foraging and stuff. So I definitely look at it more of something of like a spectacular nature, and maybe that's not right, and maybe it'll take something negatively to happen where I take it more. I don't want to say seriously, because I do take it serious, but it's more of an excitement, and I want to experience it. Then, okay, what's the plan? Should we lay down, roll over, whatever, so.
Jason's all about seeing a bear until that bear gets in his food bag and steals his Pop-Tart. And then it's on.
Well, hey, I always wondered about black bear in the Guads, and the first night on the Guadalupe Ridge route, I panicked and I knew there was a bear. It was probably about 2 a.m, and I just heard the shuffling, wrestling around, and some crunching. And I was like, oh shit, like there's something outside the tent. Like I was panicking, but it was just Todd eating some snacks. Todd eating that trail mix.
It was a cow.
So Todd, and I think also Kyle, this would probably be interesting question for me to understand your perspective, but like, the long trails that you've done, planning out the Guadalupe Ridge Trail, I'll go ahead and say trail, what logistical challenges can arise, have arisen, and then how do you incorporate that in your planning? I mean, Todd, you cached bazillions of gallons of water. I don't know that you could have done that without all the planning that you did with actually going out and physically seeing these roads. Are they drivable? Can you get access to them? Like, that was when we were walking through there, I was like, the knowledge that you have to organize this is absolutely incredible.
Well, like Kyle said, I'm a planner. You know, he's more fly by the seat of your pants. I'm a planner. I like to know all the details. I mean, it's just I enjoy doing that. But yeah, as far as like the GRT, the biggest logistics are transportation and water. You know, it's a point to point out in the middle of freaking nowhere. So how are you going to get to the start of the trail? And when you finish, how are you going to get back to your car? Um, you've got to have water. There's no water in the backcountry out there, so those are the two big things, and you got to come up with a plan.
And so, Kyle, what about you? You're not a planner, but you have to have some idea logistically of how all this is going to work out, and you have to think about it at some point, even just a little.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, like the closest I can probably come to having to think about something logistically, I guess, is like when you have to do like the 30-mile water carries on the CDT. It's kind of just one of those things where the best information you can look at is the last person's comment. But if that person's comment about the water resource was 2, 3, 4 days ago and it's been hot outside, can you trust it?
No.
So that's where you're just gonna have to prepare and carry as much water as you can and just keep sipping on that water. Or if you're really desperate, don't walk in the middle of the day, walk where the sun's setting or whatever, to where you're not going to be in direct sunlight and you're not going to be sweating as much. I've even heard there was an old guy, I think his trail name was Golden, and I don't condone this, but his way of getting up and over mountains faster was to dump all his water out, and he relied on a water source being on the other side of that mountain. But he took all that weight out of his pack so he could get up over the mountain faster. And I'm just like, okay,
I'm gonna take that dude to the casino because he's used to rolling them dice.
yeah, for real.
Clearly, he doesn't have a Trucker Joe's water bottle sleeve that would balance out his water weight, so you could carry it on the front. So maybe that's all he needs.
Oh, I thought the same exact thing, but I don't know. He lived that long to be 70, I guess, and and he was some type of engineer, so I guess somehow, some way, he was smarter than me.
The good Lord smiles on some people.
So, as we wrap up this first segment, importance of having a plan B, does anybody have any other stories that they would like to share of how planning out for these types of things saved your backpacking trip, ensured your safety? Any lessons that you've learned over the years of how important it is to plan? Anybody have anything to share, or are we moving on?
I'm good to move on. I don't think I have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a planner, so I mean that's my best advice I give to everybody is just roll with the punches. I mean, trust your gear and roll with the punches.
Cool.
Milkman's planning involves Katahdin is that way, and that's
Yep.
that's that's it.
Yep.
All right, the next thing that I'd like to talk about, and I think it's important, and I for sure don't do this well, so it'd be interesting to get your take on it. Meal planning for a hike or a backpacking trip. So if you, I'm guessing, I don't remember if in the top of my head where I got this stuff, but kind of like a moderate terrain, flat, that we are burning between 100 and 150 calories per mile, or if it's uphill struggling, then it's more like 250, 300 calories per mile. Do you guys care about calories when you're planning and packing up for a backpacking trip? Todd, you want to take this one?
I don't.
You don't eat.
No, I don't. I don't eat a lot on trail. Um, I record everything with my Garmin Phoenix, so I can see how many calories I used during the day. My biggest day ever was 33 miles on the Caprock Trail, and I only
Mhm.
consumed five. I only burned 5,000 calories. So people are like, "Oh man, you've got to eat 1,000 calories for this many miles." Man, I've got 3,500 uh, calories per pound of fat around my waist. You know, um, I just I can't eat that kind of food out on the trail. There's no way.
To go along with that, like I don't count calories. I just say, okay, theoretically, I'm gonna have a breakfast, and I'm diabetic, so I want something that I can burn quickly. That's like a big breakfast. I'm gonna have a lunch. I'm gonna have a dinner, and I'm gonna want a snack during the day. And oftentimes, and I guess Todd, when if I'm talking about our trip, it was just so hot I didn't want to eat. Like when we got to camp, that's a difference. Well, when we got to camp the first night, I was so wiped out because of Slaughter Canyon. I just went to bed and said I'll just have a double breakfast in the morning. Um, but man, it was just so hot during the day that I did not want anything. Like the water, yes, but not food. And I didn't notice that there was a big dump in my energy. I do notice if I don't eat breakfast, then I am sluggish until I eat the first meal. But yeah, I like for me, I don't count calories. I just say what I want to eat. Try to be. I've started playing around with Kim. So this lady. She's hiked almost everything. She did the Lone Star hiking trail, and during our episode, she started talking about packing just like real food, not
Mm-hmm.
not like processed foods and stuff. And she found that she was it made her feel better. She was able to not carry or eat as much because she felt fulfilled and from hunger, and that her water intake was less because what she thinks because of the eating the non-processed type foods and stuff. So I thought that was interesting. So I started kind of researching that and trying to incorporate that. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're away from the question. But yeah, I mean,
Well, I enjoyed Kim's episode where she talked about what she ate,
yeah,
because I'm always struggling with my weight, and I try to eat keto as much as I can. And I think that's why on the trail, I mean, I'm no nutritionist, but I feel like on the trail, that's why I don't have to eat as much, is because my body's like, oh, we're doing this again. Okay, let's start burning fat.
yeah.
It seems like I adapt quicker because everybody tells me the same thing. Dude, you don't eat anything on the trail.
I said it.
Yeah. I mean, well, I'm burning all this fat around my waist. Now
Yeah,
I don't know if there's a scientific, if that's accurate, but it feels like, since I'm so keto adapted that my body just, okay, we're going to start burning fat today.
yeah. Absolutely. And I truly believe that you can train your body for these types of things. True. So Kyle, what about you? What's essential for you when you consider meal planning for these multi-day trips? Is it just wing it? We're gonna stay at and eat
Um,
at the Colt house.
like if it's a short hike, like if you're just doing like 100 miles, maybe like 150 miles somewhere in there,
Short.
yeah,
Yeah,
like something short. I'm I'm on the side too where I don't want to consume too many calories and gain weight. But if it's a long hike, I'm definitely going to consider what has more calories and what weighs this and what weighs that. You obviously want the lightest, most calorie dense food
yeah,
uh, on those situations. And in those situations, when you're walking 30 miles a day, you're always going to kind of want to constantly snack because you're going to feel that wall that you're going to hit when your body's just not running on anything. Because talking about going into ketosis and regular running off of sugar and carbohydrates, it's like when you're doing those long hikes, it's like that's all your body's running off is sugar and carbohydrates. So your body's gonna I think that's how the science works. It's like your body's gonna burn through the carbohydrates and sugar way faster than fat. So you're constantly gonna have to snack to keep up with the carbohydrates and sugar. Versus where if your body's in ketosis, they'll just run off of body fat and whatever fat you're consuming. Uh, but I've only ever come across one person that actually did keto while hiking, and I don't know how they did it. I wish I would have actually sat down with them and asked them what did they carry with them. I don't know if they carried, meat with like high amount of preservatives inside of it. I don't know what they did, and if anything, that's an expensive resupply, in my opinion. Uh, so I don't. Like I said, I wish I would have sat down and talked to her about that. But yeah, I mean, it's not something I'm constantly looking at, like on a long hike. You just kind of get into the rhythm after a while where you know what you can get out of certain grocery stores. It's like the hardest time that you'll have is like if you're having to resupply out of a gas station. Then you're just like, well, I guess I'm going to grab a bunch of cheese nips, a lot of
Yeah.
chips, throw some chip bags on, 3, 4 chip bags throw on top, and that's what you're running off is just carbohydrate energy. And that's where you're probably going to want to look at the calories. You already know you're getting crap food, so you might as well get crap food with a lot of calories inside of it.
Do you ever risk it and try one of those gas station hot dogs?
Oh, I've probably eaten everything out there. I mean, in my experience, maybe I think my stomach probably has like I don't know if it's a gluten intolerance, but I think the chemicals that's on wheat and all that stuff, it's like it doesn't matter what it is when I'm out there though. It's like my body turns it and burns it, and it's like and it comes out in one hit. Whoop! So it's like I might as well just eat whatever I want. So
Yeah.
just make sure you got plenty of toilet paper because that's going to be a bad day when you run out of it. You're going to be
Yeah.
missing a sock or something.
Another thing is we're backpacking, we're hiking, we're not trail running. Like my friend Nick, that he's going for another FKT on the PCT. He's eating 10,000, 12,000 calories a day, but he's running 55, 65, 70, 75 miles a day.
That's crazy.
Oh, he's ridiculous. But I mean, it's a totally different style of traveling down this trail. We're getting what 3 miles per 3 miles an hour. You know, so compare that to somebody that's 5, 6 miles an hour for 20 hours a day. Their caloric needs are going to be different, and it's probably going to be mostly carbs and sugars.
So this is going to be an interesting question for you, Todd. How do you ensure that you're getting enough calories on a long hike and nutrients?
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, as sad as that sounds, I don't. When I'm planning out the trip, I always pack a breakfast and a dinner, and then some snacks for lunch. But then I never eat until the end of the day. I might eat a couple of snacks if we take a prolonged break. But
Yeah.
if we just sit down under a shade tree for 10 minutes to get out of the sun, I'll just drink something. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe a goo gel or something like that. But
Yeah.
as far as stopping to eat, I don't want to eat.
Do you how do you feel during the day? Well, I guess your body's just used to it, like you were saying. So, you probably have adapted and feel fine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just well, like anybody else, well, except Kyle. When I hit the incline, I'm going to start struggling. But then, I'm just motoring down the trail. My body's doing what it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we get done, I'm gonna want that big double meat, double cheese cheeseburger.
So
Kyle, what about you? Doing the long trails and stuff, how do you know that you're getting enough of the calories and nutrients? And how do you ensure that you do?
you really don't. I mean, you're just kind of just going off of how your body feels in the moment. Like if you're feeling tired, you've been sweating a lot and you drink a lot of water, you're just taking a guess that you need some electrolytes,
Yeah.
especially if you start cramping or something like that. There's really no good way to look at that. Like that might be like a reason why, like I'll carry a watch and monitor my heart rate. If my heart rate's higher than usual, that's a pretty good idea that you're probably dehydrated. So it's like, okay, I need to start drinking more water. Let's camel up at this next water spot, throw down a bottle or two and then refill and then carry from there. Uh, I mean, me personally, I try to eat better when I get into town, but you have hiker hunger and you're just throwing anything down. I know some hikers, they'll purposely go into town and they'll get grapes or some type of fruit, trying to make up for the lack of nutritiously dense foods or whatever on the trail. But for the most part, I don't think most hikers do that. And that's why you'll have like a lot of through hikers, they'll come out of town and have stomach issues. Like I've heard like a lot of people, especially on the AT, because everybody gets that hiker hunger, nobody's paying attention to how much sugar they're consuming and stuff like that. So they'll drink 2 or 3 sodas, eat the biggest meal at the restaurant, and they'll roll out and they have like the world's worst stomach pain. And apparently, a lot of them end up going to the emergency room. The doctors end up telling, yeah, and the doctors want to tell them, it's like, well, yeah, you just came out of town and consumed all this. Just go lay down, go walk it off or something like that, and give it a day or two, and they're usually better. But that also incorporates where you're going to have to carry a lot of toilet paper with you to make up for it. So
Or socks.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So nobody really, I, everybody's different. Like I remember in the Great Basin in Wyoming, I came across 2 hikers named 500 and Scout, and they both said they took multivitamins. But those are the only hikers I've ever come across where they said they took multivitamins, which it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
so is it is it really going to affect you? I really couldn't say, but it's not a bad idea.
I feel the same way. I don't pay a lot of attention to nutrients and calories, and maybe because I haven't done anything crazy. I think the Lone Star Hiking Trail is the longest, and it it that really didn't come into play because Lori came up with Whataburger one day. The next day, Greg's wife came with chicken wings. The next day, my parents met us for dinner at Trailhead 10 with Kentucky Fried Chicken. So like it ruined all my yeah. We're just carrying food for the hell of it because we're not eating it.
Halfway on the Centennial Trail, we had Sugar Shack. You know, we yeah, we did a road walk, quote unquote, alternate to go get a burger.
Yep. So Kyle, this one's for you because you brought it up, and it was really, and it is. I hear that a lot with the through hikers and people in the long trails that they want the lightest, most dense food. It makes sense. So, what are some of your go-to food items, snacks that would fall into that category?
I mean, it's really all going to depend on what that town has. I mean,
Yeah,
it's almost like I mean, obviously it's going to be Mountain House, but that's like one of those things where, what are those things like $12 a bag or whatever? That's going to be like all right, I'm going to buy one and that's going to be my special treat for tonight, or I'll save it or
yeah.
something like that. So if you can ask me my favorite, that's my favorite, but that's obviously not economical. You're doing a long trail. But that's something too, you always want to try and mix it up. You get tired of eating Nor's, but Nor's is like the cheapest calorie dense thing that you could probably get at just about every grocery store. Same thing with ramen, mashed potatoes, make a ramen bomb, with your ramen and mashed potatoes and throw chips in there or whatever. I
Spam.
didn't even real yeah, your spam. I didn't even realize how many calories were in chips, and so I was actually sitting there at camp one day and I did the math. I was like, damn, that's a lot of calories.
Yeah.
Yeah, empty calories, but still, it's like it adds a little bit of flavor to everything. That's what I liked was carrying Doritos out and throwing it on a tortilla or something. Carrying some dehydrated beans with you or something. It all depends on what that grocery store is going to have. I felt like it was definitely more of a challenge to resupply on the CDT, to where you have to go, like I've said multiple times, you have to roll with the punches. You don't know what that grocery store is going to have. You don't know what that gas station is going to have. You just need to go in there, be able to know. Like I said, you eventually pick it up when you're on the trail long enough. What's going to be your go-to? Okay, that's not any good. And also, you kind of go off of what do I feel like eating, because your body's just constantly burning calories. So you're not going to be sitting there like, oh, if I eat or drink this, I'm going to gain too much weight, or oh, this is going to make me sluggish. I'm not experimental on that. That's why I'm pretty basic. Like my buddy Bold on the AT, I can't even think of all the stuff that he came up with, where he'd come up with different type of recipes to make. He'd get so bored of everything that he'd try to come up with something new. Like I still remember when I was hiking with Pine Frog or Joe, and he made that little pizza mix or whatever. And of course, that was probably hiker hunger kicking in or whatever. But I was like, man, that is like the best trail food.
Todd, I know that you're not worried about weight and calories.
Oh, I always worry about weight. For real. I mean, that heavy backpack sucks. But I'd say one of my favorites. I've seen it a million times. Watching videos on YouTube, people throw a bag of chips on the back of their pack, and I just never thought to do it. And then that first trip that Joe and I did, he had a pack of Frito scoops, and I was like, why have I not ever done? Why have I not ever done that? And then I started carrying that with, like Kyle mentioned, some dehydrated refried beans. Dude, at the end of the day, some bean dip and some Fritos is so freaking good. And it weighs nothing. As far as like my favorite would have to be like the Packet Gourmet All American Works burger. It only takes 2 ounces of water to rehydrate instead of 8 or 10, which water can be an issue in the backcountry. Oh, and it's freaking delicious. Instead of a bun, you're using a tortilla, and it's like having a burger in the backcountry. But yeah, that Frito and bean dip, chef's kiss. Couscous with some like vegetable soup mix, some dehydrated chicken. Oh boy, that's good, and you can cold soak that.
My favorite thing on trail, and I got this from Cameron Hall, and it's Andrew, what is it, Shirka's?
Skirka.
Yeah, his bean and rice and cheese with Frito recipe. Oh man, I cooked that. I tested it out, and I actually cooked it on this desk one day while I was working, and it packs light, and man, it was filling and it was delicious.
Cameron had another one on one of his videos recently. It was biscuits and gravy, and he had the biscuit powder, the biscuit mix, and
Yep.
torn up English muffins. And I'm like, that's the smartest thing. How good would that be in the morning? On a cold morning, sitting around with some hot biscuits and gravy. Shoot, we staying at camp a little bit extra today.
Yeah, for real. I don't think I'd leave camp.
He cooked that at that trip we did, South Lano State Park. They had that in the morning, and we're all just sitting there going, like staring because it looked so good. And he's just do 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 do. So as we start to kind of wrap up, I've got a few questions, and then I have something special for you guys. We're talking about food. We're talking about planning. Do you guys have any strategies and for managing food waste while you're on the trail? So yeah, I mean, you can have the most amazing food and wonderful this and wonderful that, but like the trash that it can leave behind, not that we leave it on the trail, but in our backpacks and stuff. Does that ever come into play? And I'll start this question off. So I started, and I know Todd, you and I talked a lot about it, is dehydrating my dinners and breakfast and stuff that I just have here at the house. And so what that's facilitated me to do will first save money, also know what I'm eating, what's in it. And I have a vacuum sealer. So dehydrate it, vacuum seal it. It takes up less space. And then also the trash that's left behind is almost nothing compared to me before this, where you're carrying these, I don't know, peak refuel bags or mountain house bags with they're bulky. And how do you guys handle And does it come into your planning, the waste that's left behind by the food? And so I will say, Todd, have at it.
My strategy is to throw the bag that it was in after I finish eating, throw it in a dedicated bag inside my food bag for all my food, my food scented scraps, and take it home or take it to the nearest trailhead and chunk it in the trash can. I have started trying to dehydrate some of my own stuff at home. My next door neighbor, I turned him on to the Washita Trail, and he was so enamored with it that him and his 4 daughters just went up a couple of weeks ago and did a whole through hike of the entire 223-mile trail. They've done the whole thing and I haven't. But while they were gone, his wife came over and said, "Hey, here's our dehydrator. While they're gone, do you want to try using it?" I was, "Well, hell yeah!" So I made a big batch of white chicken chili, and then dehydrated like 6 servings of it. And the next day, I was like, "Crap! I didn't keep any out to eat." So I pulled one of those out of the freezer and cooked it like I would cook it on the trail. And man, that was good. It was home cooking outside.
Yes. I probably have left over from last backpacking season 10 or 15 meals and all my stuff. So I have this right on the floor next to my desk, all my cooking stuff. And I go downstairs, I grab one, bring it up here, and set it on this desk and cook them. And they're absolutely wonderful.
I mean, my only other strategy is to buy the number 10 cans of Mountain House because it's cheaper, and then
Yeah.
then divvy that up instead of into 2 servings. It might be a serving and a half.
Yeah. And you also, Todd, the way you cook your meals, you cook them in the freezer bags. And so like cleanup, everything's contained, and I think that's probably one of the smartest things I've ever seen.
Well, it's just because I'm lazy. I don't like to clean up.
Yeah. That's okay. Kyle, what about you?
I'm pretty much the same. It's like I just have a dedicated trash bag to put everything in. Like I don't know if they worked, but like when I was in grizzly bear country, there's those scented bags or scent proof bags, whatever that you can buy.
OpSac.
And yeah, no, is it the OpSac? Yeah, I think it is the OpSac. Yeah, and that was like my dedicated trash bag. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. And like Todd was saying, buying those tin cans of Mountain House or whatever, it made me think of a guy named Geared Up I hiked with on the AT, where he would actually buy one of those, resupply with one of those every time, and he'd just dump it into a big gallon bag. And
Oh, and scoop out what he wanted.
yeah, he just scooped out what he wanted, but he just, I guess, did it enough to where he could pour it out, and he knew the exact measurement and the amount of water to put in. His biggest thing was spaghetti. I guess the spaghetti would be the same amount every single time. I guess I don't know how he did it.
Huh.
I thought about doing it, but I was like, nah, I don't feel like paying that much.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest change as it relates to this is repackaging all, like if I'm not using my own dehydrated meals in vacuum sealer. Yes.
They're cheap and they're super handy.
Yes, and so just repackaging and vacuum sealing. So that was kind of the kickoff, like taking all these meals that you buy that are in these big things that are really hard to fold down, is repackaging them was a cost savings, and it helped out a little bit on, you know, well, in my mind on the trash and storing the trash, but then also dehydrating my own meals. And even those pack down like this, and it's like 2 cups of soup, and it's just like this when you dehydrate. And to the listeners, I'm holding up my fingers, it's about 2 inches. So yeah, that's a game changer. Not as much as a Trekker Joe water bottle sleeves, but it's close.
Mountain House does have their pro packs, which I think is a single serving instead of a 2 serving, and they're packed, they're vacuum sealed instead of just sealed in a Mylar bag. So they
Okay.
pack more easily and they're more manageable serving size. But again, it's too expensive to buy those all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely think there's a cost savings eventually that return on investment. I bought a dehydrator and I bought a vacuum sealer, and I love it.
Who's going to be the first to invest in a freeze dryer? Jason, I'm looking at Jason. I'm looking at you. Shoot, we're going to go to Jason's house and have a freeze dry party.
First off, we're building a new house, and it's even closer to the Lone Star hiking trail. So, and we're going to have 2 bedrooms and about an acre backyard. So you guys, we can tent, we can sleep inside. You guys are more than welcome to come and hang out.
Is Lori aware of this plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I told
Okay.
her. Yeah. And the campsite is in the back corner next to a cow pasture, and I'm going to build like a little fire ring, and I probably have enough space that's cleared out with no trees for about 7 or 8 tents that can sit around. So yeah, you guys are invited. We can jump the barbed wire and go dip into the pond back there. Yeah. So this next question, it blew my mind when I hiked with Todd that he had a meal that only required 2 ounces of water. But so, Todd, kick us off. How do you plan for hydration to ensure that you have enough water for cooking and for the multi days, especially in the Guadalupe backcountry where there's really not a lot of water, especially when you get into the park? But, the Ridge, the Lincolns, and Carlsbad, there's some opportunities there. But how do you go about planning all this? Are you counting ounces of water?
Well, yeah, I'm counting.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink. I don't drink as much as I should, but I'm going to drink a lot of water while we're walking, and I want to drink that because I need it. And then when we get to camp, I want to use the least amount of water possible to make my meal. So that's why, like I say, that Packet Gourmet All American Works burger, the deli smoked roast beef wrap, I think it uses 4 ounces of water or something, and they're so freaking good. But their Packet Gourmet is just as expensive, if not more expensive, than Mountain House. So
Yeah.
just I'm looking at the meals to see how much water it needs and planning around that.
And when you come up with, let's say let's say we're leaving the car, we're going to walk out with X amount of ounces of water, and that's going to take us a day of hiking. It'll take us through camp, and then it'll take us to a cache. Are you giving yourself some extra water, or is it like, okay, I need 2 ounces, I'm going to drink 1 liter, I'm going to cook with 8 ounces for the coffee and blah blah, or do you give yourself a little buffer?
I try to err on the side of caution and have a little bit of a buffer. It might not be a whole lot, but I can get to camp and rinse the dry out of my mouth if I'm that thirsty.
Yeah, I did it one time by ounces to the T, and I showed up to camp and I had to borrow a liter of water from Henning.
Is that how you got the trail name 5 liter?
That's right. I packed 5 liters and I ran out. And what, I mean, it was a great lessons learned, but I asked him, like, we were Blue Ridge, and we were heading up to the bush. And around Blue Ridge, I realized I'm screwed. I messed up. I drank the wrong water, and I was thinking I had more than I did, so I really splurged, ran out, and we still probably had 3 or 4 miles. It was hot, and so I told him, like, man, I messed up, and he had like 8 or 9 liters of water, so we had enough to get back down to Pine Springs. And I go, man, this is what happened. He goes, and of course he's like your parent, even though he's a lot younger than me. He's like, yeah, I told you needed to pack. I said, yeah, you telling me what you told me and that I didn't listen to doesn't help me right now. I need water. So am I going to be able to borrow some from you? And he's like, yes. So we get to camp, and of course he acts like nothing. Like he doesn't give me any water, and I'm like dying. And so I'm like, you're really going to make me ask? And this is like about 2 hours into camp. And he's like, yeah, you need to ask me for water. And I was like, what an ass. All right, Kyle, what about you? How does hydration and ensuring you have enough water when you're trying to cook and drink, how do you go about planning this?
I don't know. I'm a bit of a hybrid. Like you were hitting on the bladders earlier. So I got short T-Rex arms, I guess, or I'm just fat so I can't reach back and reach for the bottle. So I like to run the straw. I just don't like having anything in front of me so I can see. Because like a big learning lesson for me was like when I was hiking with Joe the first time on the GRT is when we both walked over that rattlesnake and we didn't realize it because we were drinking water at the same time. So we're both leaning back going like this, and I literally stepped right over that rattlesnake, and I think it was like my second foot going over it. I just heard that
Oh
rattle or
shit.
whatever, and I jumped and I turned back around. He was already in striking position. So that's why I started looking at other options to prevent myself from taking my eyes off of the trail. Like it sounds like a simple scenario, just when you're going to drink water, stop and don't walk. But then, there's going to be those times where you're going to be, yeah, nobody does that. So on the CDT and also on the AT, that's primarily what I carried was just that little straw cap that you can screw on to the top of your bottles.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody's different though. Some people like it, some people don't. I mean, it is kind of a nuisance to have to clean that out versus having to just buy a new bottle. That's how I do that. I was veering off on the question right there. What was the main
So
question again?
basically, how do you plan for
This
hydration?
is the ADD episode.
Exactly. What was that again? How do you
Yeah,
plan
this was basically.
the drinking? What?
I'm going to make a blooper with this. How do you plan for
Yeah,
hydration?
for real.
How do you plan for hydration and ensure that you have enough water for cooking and drinking on long hikes?
So on long hikes, you kind of just eventually figure out how much your body takes. So like I got good enough to where I knew I could walk 30 miles on 40 or 4 liters of water. So I just knew my body, I guess, in that situation. But obviously, like that was obviously like when my body was in through hiking shape, uh, versus where when you first starting out, you're kind of unpredictable, like what your body's going to be asking, what it's going to be demanding and stuff like that. But like I'll just keep so like if I'm carrying 4 liters of water, I'm just gonna pay attention to how many miles I did on 1 liter of water, and then kind of just pay attention to that, consider that on the 3 other liters that I'm gonna have. So it is kind of bad that you can't really see how much water you have left sitting inside the pocket. But it never has. I think there's only been maybe 2 situations where I ran out of water, and it kind of scared me a little bit. One was at that Aqua Dulce with Joe, and then one was on the Continental Divide Trail. I think that was going, no, that was leaving. I think it was either the first or second day out of Lincoln, Montana. And it was a section where the forest burned down. So it was just open and exposed. I didn't expect it to be open and exposed like that. So I didn't carry as much water with me in that section. But I probably did get a little bit dehydrated there, though, because I got a slight headache going on. I'm like, I'm going to have to sit down for a while and drink, Camel Up, drink at least a liter or two and calm down a little bit before I continue hiking. But yeah, other than that, I really don't manage water really when it comes to that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, this has come to an end, but we have a new segment that I want to introduce for the Trailblazing Texas podcast. It's called the Lightning Round. It shouldn't take very long. These are
I reserve the right to opt
nope.
out.
Todd, I love you too much to let you opt out. So I have a list of 29 questions. I'm going to call your name, short 1 or 2 word answers, and I'll give you the question, and you just give me the answer, and then we'll move on.
Are there prizes
There
involved?
is. Yep, you get to hike with me and come on a future podcast. All right, so here we go. Todd, favorite snack on the trail?
Favorite snack on the trail? Fritos.
Kyle, hardest trail moment you've survived?
I guess almost dying in the San Juan sledding off of a mountain.
All right. Todd, go to trail shoes, boot, trail runners, or sandals?
Brooks Cascadias.
Kyle, favorite hiking season?
I guess spring, just because all the flowers and everything else. Yeah,
This is fun. Todd, day hikes or overnight backpacking trips?
Overnight backpacking trip.
Kyle, water crossing, sandals, or charge straight through?
charge straight through. You got to make miles. Suck it up, Buttercup.
My man.
Todd, you better watch this one. Favorite piece of gear you swear by?
Toke's titanium spoon.
Okay. Kyle, heaviest luxury item that you carry?
I don't know what we consider a luxury item. I'm like bare necessities when it comes with that.
All the things that Jason carries.
Yeah, I guess that would make things more difficult. The little bag that you can air up your sleeping pad with. Get all lightheaded at the end of the day.
All right. Todd, coffee on the trail, must have or skip it?
Skip it. I don't want to poop.
Kyle. Kyle, a trail magic moment you'll never forget.
It was probably in New Mexico going up Mangus Mountain. I was out of water. Trail magic magically appeared with water right underneath that tree. And talk about trail magic. I didn't think water was real trail magic until I needed it.
Todd, first piece of gear you ever bought?
Oh, Jesus. And of course, it would fall to
Yep.
me. I guess it was my REI backpack I bought.
Kyle, most overhyped piece of gear in your opinion?
I guess hiking packs. Everybody thinks that you have to have the lightest. Yeah, you have to have the lightest, latest, and greatest pack, and you really don't need it.
All right, Todd, early alpine start or sleep late and hike late?
Early start.
Kyle, navigation pride, good sense of direction or always getting turned around?
I guess a good sense of direction on that. I got turned around the CDT, but that's part of the CDT.
All right, Todd, coldest night you've ever camped out in?
Around 0
Oof,
Fahrenheit.
jeez.
Yeah.
Kyle, mountains, desert, or forest?
Mountains.
All right, Todd, most intimidating summit you've ever reached?
Man, I don't know. Elbert was tough, but that's because I live at freaking sea level. The first time I did Guad was terrible, but that's because I was so out of shape. Yeah, I would have to say those two just for different reasons.
Okay. Kyle, funniest trail mishap?
I mean, those are more stories, but I guess it was probably my hitch getting a ride from a guy with his pants down below his ass cheeks.
Nice. This hit's gonna cost you, boy.
Gas
Yeah.
or ass? What gonna be?
Todd, strangest thing you've seen someone carry on a backpacking trip?
A plastic trombone.
All right, Kyle, most embarrassing trail moment?
It's probably when I was dropping a deuce and I didn't think my buddy Cash was gonna go down the same road as me, and I didn't think he was gonna see me. And I was like, he's probably gonna see me, so I yelled at him, "Don't look at me!" And of course he looked. So, yeah, exactly. So I'm over here, spread eagle, and it's like, and of course the ass took a picture
Yeah.
of me.
I've seen Henning take deuces more than it just happens. It happens. All right, last question to the lightning round is, what is your favorite Texas hiking podcast for everybody?
There's this guy. Yeah, I can't remember what his name is. I guess it would have to be the Trailblazing Texas podcast. He's got a pretty cool logo. I mean, he's all
Yeah,
right.
Todd designed the logo. All right. So guys, thank you so much for joining. To the listeners, we still have a lot of questions. So we talked about having a plan B, meal planning. Next is going to be water caching, resupply, deciding on what gear to take, physical preparation, mental preparation, how to meet other hikers, safety, navigation skills, post-hike recovery. So we have a ton of stuff to still get through. I promise you that we will have the panel more often. Like, just time got away. I have no idea what happened, but this is probably, for me, some of the most enjoyable episodes is just being able to hang out with the guys and just talk and catch up. So hopefully you guys, Todd and Kyle, had a good time. I definitely will
Always.
schedule more of these. These are awesome. To the listeners, again, the original the first episodes of the hiking panel were episodes 25 and 26. So definitely catch them out, or catch them. They're wonderful episodes.
And you get to see JR in the bed.
Yes, JR's in the bed and sometimes kind of snoring on the mic. But again, guys, I know you guys are really busy. It's a Saturday, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. I don't know if
I had to get up from my nap.
I know. Hey, I took a nap too. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
Right again.
Oh.
Thanks again. It's been fun.
And that wraps up another exciting episode of the Trailblazing Texas podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode today, and stay tuned for our next episode where we will pick back up where we left off and guarantee to uncover many more hiking gems and share many more tips to enhance your experience on the trail. Until then, happy trails and happy hiking.